Attention passionate Cleveland, BROWNS. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Cleveland Browns' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Cleveland Browns fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Cleveland, BROWNS. Let's get to the news. Alright, Browns fans, sit tight because today we're diving deep into a story that's been shaking the foundation of the franchise. We're talking about a situation that's been brewing behind the scenes and has now reached a boiling point. Yes, we're discussing the potential firing of head coach Kevin Stefanski. It's a story that's been gaining momentum as we enter Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season. And honestly, it's one of the most talked about topics among Browns supporters, analysts, and insiders alike. But why? Well, because this isn't just about one bad season or a couple of unlucky games. No, it's about the looming specter of a coaching change that could redefine the future of this proud franchise. Now, to understand the gravity of the situation, you have to look back a little. Kevin Stefanski came into Cleveland with a lot of hope. Remember, just a couple of years ago, he led the Browns to a playoff appearance and even earned the Coach of the Year award. That's no small feat for a franchise that's been starved for success for decades. When Stefanski took over, there was a sense that he could be the right guy to turn things around. His team played disciplined football, and there was a clear identity on offense and defense. Fans were optimistic, and the Browns looked like they might finally be heading in the right direction. But things, as we all know, don't always go as planned. The 2024 season was an absolute disaster. The Browns finished with a 3-14 record, which, let's be honest, was one of the worst in the league. And yes, injuries played a part, especially the season-ending Achilles tear to Deshaun Watson, who was supposed to be Cleveland's franchise quarterback. But the problems ran much deeper. The offense under Stefanski's call was just abysmal. They finished dead last in scoring, averaging just 15.2 points per game. That's well below league average, and it's a clear indicator that something wasn't working. And it wasn't just the points. No, the Browns struggled in almost every offensive category you can think of. Their third down conversion rate was a measly 29.5%, which is terrible in the NFL. That means they couldn't sustain drives, couldn't keep the chains moving, and ultimately couldn't put points on the board. They also tied for the most turnovers in the league with 34, which is a huge red flag. Turnovers are often the deciding factor in close games, and Cleveland simply couldn't hold onto the ball or convert opportunities. The team also led the league in punts. Imagine that, a team with a strong defense but no offense that can't get out of its own territory. And when you look at the red zone, things got even worse. Cleveland was among the worst teams in red zone efficiency, meaning they couldn't capitalize on scoring opportunities when they were closest to the end zone. Their time of possession was also lacking, which indicates that they couldn't sustain drives or keep their defense off the field long enough to rest and recover. It all pointed to an offense that lacked rhythm, identity, and confidence. Now, that's a damning indictment of the offense, but it's also crucial to look at the quarterback situation. Deshaun Watson, who was supposed to be the cornerstone of this team's future, looked completely out of sync when he was healthy. In his 7 starts, he failed to lead the Browns to even a single 20-point game. That's astounding, especially considering Watson's talent and experience. Backup quarterbacks who were brought in to provide some relief didn't fare much better. The team went through 4 different starters under center over the course of the season, which is never a good sign. It's a sign of instability, something fans and analysts alike find hard to ignore. The passing game under Stefanski's play calling was conservative and predictable. Opponents knew what was coming, and at times, it felt like Cleveland was stuck in a rut. The running game, which used to be a strength with Nick Chubb, struggled to recover after his injury early in the season. It was a perfect storm of issues: poor offensive line support, lack of rhythm, and the absence of a reliable quarterback. All these problems fed into each other, creating a cycle of frustration that only grew as the season wore on. And it wasn't just the offense that took a hit. The defense, which had been a top-tier unit under coordinator Jim Schwartz, also regressed. Injuries, fatigue, and poor execution led to a decline in performance. The defense, which previously thrived on tough tackling, smart coverage, and aggressive play calling became inconsistent. There were blown coverages, missed tackles, and a general sense of fatigue that set in. When your defense can't get stops or force turnovers, it puts even more pressure on an already struggling offense. It's a classic domino effect, and unfortunately, Cleveland's defense couldn't escape it last season. In response to that chaos, the Browns' front office made some moves during the offseason. They fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey and offensive line coach Andy Dickerson, trying to shake things up and fix the issues on offense. But Stefanski, despite the chaos and poor results, was kept on. Why? Well, because he had some success in the past, and the organization probably viewed the 2024 disaster as an anomaly: injuries, bad luck, and a tough schedule. But now, with the start of 2025, it's clear that the situation is more complicated. Cleveland's ownership, led by Jimmy Haslam, is famously impatient when it comes to success. They want results, and they want them now. They've invested heavily in Deshaun Watson, signing him to a massive contract that has raised eyebrows and questions about the team's long-term strategy. With that kind of investment, the pressure on Stefanski to produce is immense. And that brings us to this season. Week 2 just wrapped up, and the Browns are 0-2. Not exactly the start they had envisioned. And if you look at their upcoming schedule, things don't get any easier. They face the Green Bay Packers in Week 3, a team led by Jordan Love, who's been developing into a pretty promising quarterback. Then in Week 4, they hit the road again to face the Detroit Lions, a team that's been electric on offense and reached the NFC Championship last year. And if that wasn't enough, they finished that brutal stretch in Week 5 with a game against the Minnesota Vikings in London. Traveling overseas adds an extra layer of strain, and facing a team like Minnesota, which has a solid roster, makes this stretch even more daunting. Cleveland could very well find itself staring at a 1-4 or even 0-5 record after those 5 games, which is a nightmare scenario for any team, especially one with a coach on the hot seat. That kind of start, combined with mounting losses and fan frustration, could push ownership toward making an early coaching change. Now here's where it gets really interesting. If the Browns start the season with a record like that, the question isn't just about firing Stefanski. It's about whether they'll do it early enough to salvage the season or to reset for a new direction. The front office, with all their questions about Deshaun Watson's long-term future, the roster, and the coaching staff, might see no other option but to make a move. Such a decision would be a bold one, but in the NFL, sometimes drastic times call for drastic measures. And frankly, the Cleveland Browns are no strangers to bold moves. Let's not forget, the franchise has a rich history, full of ups and downs, and right now, they're in one of those critical moments. This season could define whether the team can bounce back or whether they'll continue to struggle and face more instability. Kevin Stefanski, who once seemed like the right man for the job, now finds himself coaching for his future with every game that passes. His prior success has given him some leeway, but last season's disaster and the tough start in 2025 put that at risk. And it's not just about wins and losses anymore. It's about the long-term vision for Cleveland, about whether this coaching staff can still lead the franchise forward amid all the challenges. Fans are watching closely, and the pressure from the front office is mounting. The NFL is a results-driven league, and Cleveland's recent history of false starts and unmet expectations only amplifies that pressure. If the Browns do decide to pull the trigger early, it would send a clear message that they're serious about turning things around, even if it means starting over in the middle of the season. So, Browns fans, it's a tense situation. The next few weeks will be pivotal in determining the future of Kevin Stefanski and potentially the entire coaching staff. The team's schedule, the performances on the field, the reactions from ownership, all of these factors are converging into a perfect storm. And honestly, it's a story worth watching because it could reshape the AFC North and the entire landscape of the NFL for years to come. Will Stefanski survive the storm, or will Cleveland's front office pull the trigger early and start a new chapter? That's the question hanging in the air right now. And now, Cleveland Browns fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Do you believe Stefanski deserves more time, or do you think a coaching change is inevitable? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the future of this team. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Cleveland Browns news. We're in this together, and no matter what happens, our passion for Cleveland remains strong. Thanks for watching, and let's keep the faith alive.